You're good.
I think in student ministry, there are some advantages to spend a third of the time to impact families and a third of the time to connect teenagers to the church. First, teenagers can experience God in their families. While they spend a lot of time with family, they only spend 2 hours a week in church. If the parents and families of students have the right faith, the students will naturally experience God in family, which will grow their faith. Second, it is also an essential ministry to the connect teenagers to the church. In many cases, the students don't have interest to anything but their friends. However, they are also one of the members of the church. They can interact with adults of the church and can serve the church with their talent as members of the church. Furthermore, all members of the church are a family in the kingdom of God. If teenagers are deeply connected with the church, their faith will mature and also they could take pride in being a part of church community.
So I think if we're talking about the advantages of spending a third of time with families and a third time connecting students to the church, the families piece absolutely connects back to, I think I said Deuteronomy chapter 6, and having a responsibility, parents having the responsibility to being the primary discipler of their children. If that's the case, then Ephesians chapter 4 tells me that I need to be the equiper of the saints. I need to be the one that's pointing those parents towards the resources and the tools that they need to be able to do that. Because I think it was on you who said, hey, they're the ones that are going to be spending the most time with these kids. And so, that absolutely has to be at the forefront of my mind, because I don't have the ability to do that all by myself. Um, the the other side of that piece is connecting students to the church. So, we have to be disciples that are making disciples who in turn make disciples. So that connected process implies that we need to be hooking these kids up to opportunities to serve within the church, to make connections, and to pass on beyond just being fed and receiving primarily everything, to the point of transitioning to actually utilizing the gifts that God's given them to be in ministry and to be practicing their faith, so that they don't get caught up in the percentages that Professor Ross was talking about. They don't fall away from the faith. So honestly, that's my piece.
Sweet. So when I look at the first part of the question with connecting to parents and why that should take up a third of our time, I just think it's a huge reminder to define our flock. And I think it makes a huge impact, and it's made a huge impact in my ministry, even in the last couple of weeks, that I should be teaching, I should be pastoring, shepherding the parents as well. And especially I work with junior high students mostly, the majority of my job. You can't really minister to a junior high student outside of a Sunday or a Wednesday unless you have a relationship with their parents, because it's just weird. If you text a junior high student, it's not okay. So making a relationship with that parent and making say, hey, can we go grab Whataburger? Can we go grab these different, just go sit down and have coffee. Even though if for some reason junior high students have coffee these days, I didn't when I was in junior high, but they do. They do now. They're more sophisticated, I guess. But just, and also just having the confidence to do that, to minister to them, is that they expect it. Not only do they expect it, but they crave it. Honestly, I know a story. I didn't share this, but this mom who serves heavily in our church, she spoke with one of the girls on my staff, and she said, "Hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have a junior high, I have a sixth grade girl, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you help me?" And we resourced her. We gave her a book. The book, maybe I gave the book to all my parents, "Understanding Your Teen," that we read last semester. And one of them actually came up to me today and was like, "Hey, I was reading this, and this is such a good book." And just resourcing them in that way. And then I love what both of these men said about connecting them to the church. making disciples who make disciples, showing them that they're a part of the body and they're a vital part, no matter how small they feel, how big they feel. Hopefully they don't feel too huge, because they're certainly not the head of the body, but teaching them that, right? And discipling doesn't take place by simply being an attender in a Bible study, but it takes place by being active, by making a difference, by not coming to church and saying, "What can I get out of church?" But what can I give into the church today? How can I impact somebody's life? How can I serve? And teaching them what that looks like to be a true disciple. And so they're both so important. I'd say equally important, as I guess doing ministry to the student directly, with the student directly. So
Mm.
yeah, that is our week one.